And this morning, the fissure in MAGA world over the Epstein files is growing. And with it, the ire of the president. As a growing ring of Republican lawmakers, Trump loyalists, and right-wing media put on the pressure to release the files, the president is lashing out at the very people who put him into the Oval Office, calling his own supporters weaklings and framing the entire conspiracy echo chamber around Epstein, the very one he helped perpetuate, as one big Democratic hoax.
All my supporters want to talk about is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. It's unbelievable. It's a disgrace, and I remember every one of these guys. Yeah. They're my supporters, and they love it, and they love it, and it's all induced by the Democrats.
Amid the growing outrage, a new twist: the firing of DOJ official Maureen Comey, the daughter of James Comey, who prosecuted Epstein and co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. Let's bring in NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez, NBC's Julie Sirkin on Capitol Hill, and former federal prosecutor and Politico magazine senior writer Ankush Kadori. So, Gabe, the president now lashing out at his own supporters, and yet this backlash is only growing. Trump ally Laura Loomer even warning that this issue could consume his presidency. Where's the White House thinking on this morning?
Well, Anna, it is very interesting. This is what you'd expect from the president. Whenever he feels backed into a corner, he really lashes out against who is attacking him. In this case, however, he's punching back at his own supporters. That's what really makes this so unusual. But if you talk to the White House, they feel they've done all they can here. They're still backing the Attorney General, Bondi. The president publicly is still sticking up for her. And they say that she's done all she could, that the DOJ put out that statement. The president has been asked about this repeatedly and says that Bondi briefed him very quickly, but that there's no, that he's encouraging her to release any credible information here. And so that right now is the open question at this point. Will Bondi release anything more than she already has? But as far as we know, the president is still sticking by his attorney general, and the president himself is now lashing out at his supporters, trying to reframe this whole controversy.
Julie, we have seen Republicans on the Hill break with the president on this, and now that the president's ire is growing, are they backing down?
Sort of. I mean, some in his core MAGA base up here, especially in the House, I would say very different than Senate Republicans on this. They want to see this come out. They are questioning Pam Bondi. Some even called for a special counsel to take over. Lauren Boebert, for example, suggested it should be former Congressman Matt Gaetz, who is up for Attorney General, but that never went through. And so this is just an issue that has been brewing within the MAGA circles for years. I remember I even covered President Trump in his final days before his campaign this year, and he was talking about it, as were his allies, his conservative allies that he was bringing up on stage. Speaker Johnson, however, softening his tone earlier this week, suggesting this is a bigger issue, perhaps breaking for the first time that I've seen with the president so publicly, and then yesterday suggesting his words were taken out of context. Take a listen to this.
It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide.
I have been misquoted and misrepresented on all of that. Go watch the interview I did with Benny Johnson. I'm very clear. I mean, we're for transparency. I'm saying the same thing.
Outside of sanctions.
Except they're not really saying the same things the president is. Sure, the president said Bondi could release some of these files, but here's the thing. Democrats are also keeping this issue completely front and center for Republicans. For example, yesterday I scooped a resolution in the Senate by Ruben Gallego that he's trying to push, essentially a messaging vote, but all of these designed to put Republicans in a hard spot and reaffirm their desire to either get these documents out there or keep them hidden on them.
It looks like there's some bipartisan legislation being pushed, or a resolution in the House, with Republican Thomas Massie signing on to Democrat Ro Khanna's resolution to try to force a vote on releasing the files as soon as next week. What's the likelihood of that happening, Julie?
And this is what I mean about the differences between Republicans in the Senate and the House. Yeah, Thomas Massie, a Republican who has drawn the ire of the president basically all year long for a number of issues, teaming up with Ro Khanna, as you mentioned, to try and force a vote on the floor to essentially force the DOJ to release these documents, to get them all out there. The only issue is that resolution in the House will take 7 days before Massie and Khanna can even call around and start collecting signatures. They need 218, a majority, to be able to force Johnson Johnson's hand in getting this moving on the floor. And that's another tell here. If Johnson really wanted to force the DOJ to do this, he could by putting this on the floor himself. Clearly he doesn't and trusts the president to do the right thing here when it comes to the Epstein case. But for Kana and Massey's resolution, still a while to go on that.
Gabe, there's also the fact that the president's going back on his own promises to his supporters during the 2024 campaign that he would release the files. Take a look.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would.
We need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
How is it that my father can be convicted of 34 crimes, but no one on Epstein's list has even been brought to light?
The president, his vice president, his own son, all on the 2024 campaign trail making something out of the Epstein files. Now he wants to disavow supporters who care about the Epstein files. Gabe, the question is why? Why the about face?
Well, Anna, look, latching on to the Epstein files, at one point it served him politically. Now that it doesn't, he is much less likely and much less willing to stick with it. Now, if you listen to that interview where the president was asked about the Epstein files back during the 2024 campaign, he almost was reluctantly saying it wanted to be released. If you continue that answer, he did say you have to be careful with what you release because it could it could destroy people's lives. That's certainly something that he might feel strongly about regarding the Steele dossier years prior. But while the president didn't latch onto it as much as he's latched onto other conspiracy theories, as you just played, some of his allies, J.D. Vance, even his own son, and plenty of others did latch onto it, and now he can't seem to get away from it. What the administration would rather be talking about is that they're trying to sell their so-called one big beautiful bill. Vice President J.D. Vance in Pennsylvania yesterday trying to do that, and instead, here we are talking about the Epstein saga.